Welcome to Real World, Real Talk with Dr. D.Z. Cofield. The show represents captivating conversations and insightful information to encourage and inspire you with all you need to become the best you can possibly be. And now, your host for Real World, Real Talk, Dr. D.Z. Cofield.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Real World, Real Talk. I'm your host, Dr. D.Z. Cofield. You're listening to your member-supported public radio station, The Choice 90.9, KTSU, and the Real World, Real Talk Network. I am excited today to bring some good news to the forefront. Man, typically we've been spending a lot of time talking about COVID-19 and talking about the racism in our country. And man, I tell you what, it's just been overwhelming. First Lady Michelle Obama talked about low grade depression. I'm not sure if it's low grade, mid grade, or high grade. I guess it just depends on what kind of grade you want. But man, it has been absolutely overwhelming to see everything that's going on, the number of people who are dying, the circle shrinking around us regarding those that we know who have died because of COVID-19, but also those deaths that are unrelated to COVID-19. I've had 3 or 4 friends close to me who have passed in the last 2 weeks, and it's just been really, really hard. And so if you've been feeling like you've been going through a tough time, feeling like you're kind of getting through or trying to make your way through a dark, murky pit or something like that, you're not alone. But today I've got some good news for those of you who may be struggling in terms of finding a job. You're in need of a job. Maybe you were furloughed and you're just tired of staying home, right? You're just ready to get out and you're tired and you want to get back into the workforce. We have a show for you on tonight that will really, really bless you. Now, just a couple of housekeeping matters before we get started. If you'd like to follow me during the week, you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me at DZ Cofield. You can follow me on Facebook at DZ Cofield, and you can follow me on Twitter at, you guessed it, DZ Cofield. Let me take this opportunity to remind you to register for the census. You want to make sure you register for the census. Vitally, vitally important. And you may ask why. Well, the president is playing some games, right? So he has moved up the deadline for registering for the census to the end of September instead of till the end of October. And the reason that's important is because some of us have been playing in our community. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. We've just been playing. When you go through the city of Houston, we keep on talking about we're the 3rd largest city. We're not the 4th largest city. Well, guess what? There is no evidence that is the case unless we register for the census. And so many things are tied to the census. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we talk about federal funding, when we talk about money for education, when we talk about our congressional representation. I mean, there's so much tied to the census, and we do this every 10 years. We are averaging around the country in major cities, 64% of people having registered for the census. Now, that is crazy low. I mean, 64% is ridiculous. In any school, you're failing, period. But in the city of Houston, we're like at 57%, which means we were sure enough get left back. So if we don't register, we can't access the funds and get all that's available to us. And we will come back again, being ranked as the 4th largest city in the U.S., talking about, no, we're really the 3rd largest, wondering why we're not getting more federal funding and the like. So I want to encourage everybody, go to census.gov. Make sure you take the time to register. It takes less than 5 minutes to do it. Less than 5 minutes. You can mail it in. You can make a telephone call and just do it over the phone. Okay. So make sure you register for the census. I'm excited to have on our show tonight. I can tell you through our ministry alone, we have sent close to 150 people to this ministry to help people get back on their feet. And I'm talking about Work Faith Solutions. They have a program coming up That's absolutely tremendous. If you are looking for a job, you need to stay tuned. If you know somebody that's looking for a job, you need to call them. Tell them, tune in to 90.9 KTSU. That's on the FM dial, or KTSUradio.com. Really, really important. There's an event coming up this Tuesday, August the 25th, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And the title of this is I Work Houston Hiring Expo. I Work Houston Hiring Expo. I work literally like internet work Houston. And there are hundreds of jobs that will be available on this virtual hiring platform. I know there are many of you out there who are looking for jobs. You were furloughed. Some of you are looking for a new job. You're kind of worn out where you are. You're looking for a fresh start. If that's what you're looking for, you have an opportunity through I Work Hiring Expo, I Work Houston, to get that new job, to get that new position. I'm excited to have both the CEO and the manager of community relations with us on today. Let me take this opportunity to introduce them. First of all, the CEO for WorkFaith is none other than Mr. Anthony Flynn. Anthony's a highly sought after advisor to CEOs, key executives, and their companies. He has been a leader with numerous Fortune 100 giants, including companies like Kraft Foods, RJ Reynolds, and 3M, and a pioneering executive in several multi-million-dollar nonprofit ventures. Anthony has been a featured speaker at Harvard University, Emory University, Georgia Tech, the University of Memphis, and many other institutions. He has also appeared on numerous TV, radio, podcasts, and has also given many keynote addresses. He's the author of 2 books, The Executive Pipeline and The Happiness Map, Finding Fulfillment in Life and Work. We're happy to have him with us. He recently has relocated to Houston from Atlanta, where he served as president of the 100 Black Men of Atlanta. And in that position as the executive director, he interacted with some legends in our community. And now he comes to Work Faith Connection, and we're really excited to have him with us on today. And then we have Kim Kasi McKee. She's a native Houstonian. She has worked professionally as well as volunteered in various organizations, including Star of Hope, KSBJ Radio, Somebody Cares International, Pray the World Ministries, and many other organizations. She is a lay chaplain through Houston Methodist Hospital and a graduate and national trainer for the DeVos Urban Leadership Initiative, an organization that provides support and training for emerging leaders throughout the inner cities of America. She's a graduate of the University of Texas with degrees in broadcast journalism and speech communications. Her and her husband, Kerry, serve as senior pastors at the church of her birth, founded by her father, the Latter-day Deliverance Revival Church in Houston's historic 5th Ward. Let me take this opportunity to welcome them both to Real World, Real Talk. Man, thank you all for being with us on today. What's going on, people?
It's all good. God bless you. Thank you, Dr. Cofield, for having us on. Great to see you. Great to be here tonight.
Doc, it's an honor to join you here. I was excited when I found out we had the opportunity to join a legend.
So first of all, let's start with you, Anthony. Man, you have such a tremendous resume. You have worked with companies like Chick-fil-A, Morgan Stanley. You've done TED Talks. You've spoken at major colleges and universities around the country. What led you to come to Work Faith Connection?
Yep, great question, Doc. So when I did my TED Talk years back, essentially what I talked about was something called hope and how, right? And I talked about how I left corporate America in my early years. I left corporate America because, I figured that I had the how, practical, pragmatic ways, to make money. I'm the kid who was born to a teenage mother in poverty. And so I needed a way out. And none of my friends, none of my homeboys, and everybody from the hood didn't have the same way out I had. So I figured out the how. but I didn't really have hope. So I was miserable. I had, cufflinks every day, fully suited and booted, company car, 4-state territory. I'm living the dream life at 24 years old, youngest person in the country in my role, only African-American male in the country in my role. And yet I was looking for hope. And so I shifted and went into ministry full time. And we planted a church, Doc. We had tremendous success. I was the very first full-time staff member other than the senior pastor. And we grew a church from 60 volunteers to about 10,000 members, literally in a matter of 4 years. We moved 5 times in 4 years, from a 250-seat auditorium to a 92,000 square foot facility, 3,500 seats. And then I felt like I was missing the how again. So the church was great. We were impacting lots of people, but I kept seeing people come in and struggle with poverty. And there were single moms with kids who weren't making it, and I'm like, man, I thought I left one problem, but created another one. So fast forward all these years later, and I'm wrapping up here, fast forward where Work Faith was the first opportunity in my life where I had seen an organization, in this case, an established organization that had a bridge between hope and how, the combination of the two. And when the search firm reached out and the board reached out to look for me, and I heard about the work of the organization, I was sold. It took us about 6 months for me to go through the process, courting the organization, them courting me making sure it was cool for my family to relocate from Atlanta and move to Houston. But here we are, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Now, Kim, let me ask you, as the person that was with the organization, what were your thoughts as you hear from this search firm, hey, we think we found the person, and then you found out it was Anthony? I mean, because I'm literally like, having talked to you all and knowing you over the years, and now meeting Anthony, I'm like, dude, this is like, a free agent, somebody saying, man, Michael Jordan wants to come play for your team. You know what I mean? It's like, man, wait, you can get who? No, you playing. Stop playing. You play too much. Tell me how the organization has felt. And I know the organization was under tremendous leadership for many years under Sandy. You talk about that tremendous foundation that was laid and what you were looking for in this next phase.
Absolutely. Wow. Well, you said it. There was a tremendous foundation that had been laid, and Sandy Schultz was certainly legendary in her own right. And the question was, what would life look like after Sandy Schultz? Where do you go from there when you have the person that was the first and only president that the organization had ever had since 2007. So she was our founding president. And so her fingerprints were all over the organization. And so when the conversation started about a change of leadership, to be honest, I was really praying along with others that she would stay, to be quite honest. Just praying that she would stay. Just couldn't imagine Work Faith without a Sandy Schultz, who was kind of the heart and soul of the organization. But I tell you, as somewhere along the way, the Lord really began to tender my heart to just release Sandy, release that prayer to him, let go, and allow him to do what he needed to do to take this organization to where it needed to go. And so some people are in our lives for a season, some for a lifetime. But I said a long time ago, I started saying I was too far along in my life to get a new job. I'm looking for assignments. And so I look at wherever I'm working, it's an assignment. You're going to be there for a season and then move on. And so it was obvious that Sandy had completed her assignment for that phase of that foundational pioneering work that she did, so that we could be in a healthy enough state for this unprecedented season that we are in. And so looking at, I listened to the TED Talks, and that's the other thing they did a good job, Sandy and the board, of giving us a sneak peek into this Anthony Flynn before he ever stepped foot onto the campus. And so we're looking at TED Talks, we're reading, now technology makes it easy for you to search out a whole lot. So I'm Googling, I'm just doing everything I can do. And honestly, I was thinking to myself, why is this guy coming here? At that point, it seemed like, really? But of a truth, it was with divine purpose, without a doubt. Just from the moment he stepped on off the elevator, I'll say, to that first meeting the week of March 17th. And first of all, I'm going to tell you what impressed me immediately, seeing the great respect, camaraderie, that had already been built between he and Sandy. I mean, and they had known each other for very long, but they immediately connected and they had a mutual respect for one another. And she gave her endorsement. You know, it was a passing of the baton, gave her endorsement before the staff. He again built her up, celebrated all the work that she had done, said how they would just continue to be in relationship. And I mean, you just could not have asked for a more beautiful passing of the baton, if you will. Yeah. So I mean, you couldn't help but, and now that we're 5 months in through a pandemic and staff changes and all of that, even more so, God has just continued to confirm what his will was for the changing of the guards.
You know, it's amazing that you say that. And I know, Anthony, you having worked with companies with CEOs who transitioned in, one of the mistakes I see young leaders making, especially in the pastoral realm, is this attempt to build their platform on the bones of their predecessor instead of on the foundation of their predecessor. To try to destroy who was before them to try to make themselves look good. And they don't know how that adversely affects those that they're coming in to lead. Kim, before I go back to Anthony, I want you to give our audience who may not be aware of the mission and vision of Work Faith Connection and what it has done, if you could give us that historical perspective. And then I want to have Anthony share with what he perceives to be this next journey, including I Work Houston, which I think is an absolutely tremendous idea. So let's talk historically. Sure. What Work Faith Connection has been about, because I think in many ways it's been one of the best kept secrets in our city.
Sure, absolutely. So the mission of Work Faith Connection is to provide faith-based training and coaching to anyone who desires long-term employment. I like to say Work Faith is a place of new beginnings and second chances. And that's what it has always been since our foundation back in 2007. Really been there to provide hope, encouragement, to build confidence in people who find themselves unemployed. And the width and breadth of the types of people we serve is part of the beauty of the organization, because I tell people we can help you from GEDs to PhDs, from Penn State to the penitentiary, and everything in between. If we've ever looked for a job, we have all at some point been a discouraged job seeker. And a lot can come out of that discouragement if you don't have an organization, a group of people like Work Faith who literally will come alongside you, help you to brush yourself off, kind of get out of your emotions, if you will, and get back into the job search. And so we're there to help provide all kinds of job readiness tools and preparation. It's amazing. Even the people who think that they don't need any help, finding a job. I was one of those people, had worked at the same organization for 16 years. And you find yourself, if you've not looked for a job in a long time, you're not thinking about the fact that now the way you find a job in 2020 looks different than the way you looked for a job 5 years ago, 10 years ago. And so Work Faith is right there as that organization that we want to make sure that you are informed of the landscape and the things that you need to do to make yourself employable, and to not only just finding a job, but to keep a job.
I want to say for our listening audience, I've known of Work Faith for several years, and we referred people, as I said at the beginning of the show. So I actually went to sit through the coaching sessions and to experience what people would experience, those that we referred. And I tell you what, I was so impressed, because more than just helping people find a job, you all deal with helping people change their lives. And that distinction was so powerful, and it was so well communicated. Mm-hmm. I mean, from, hey, you're going to be on time. You need to do what you need to do. Matter of fact, first day, you're going to have to be honest with yourself before you can be honest with us. Mm-hmm. And honesty is going to cost you, but dishonesty will cost you more. Mm-hmm. And I was like, mm-hmm. Wow. I was like, man, this is like ridiculous. And if the session starts at 9, don't show up at 9:01, because you're not getting in. Like, it's like no playing, no games. And I need to say this for our listening audience, because it's not just for people who are employed or who are looking to improve their employment. This program welcomes those of you who may be hard to hire, those of you who may be coming out of incarceration. And that's one of the distinctives of Work Faith Connection, unlike other job fairs that I know have been held in the past, where you have people who say we want to hire people and give people a second chance, but they're really not equipped to do it emotionally. They're not equipped to do it spiritually. The people who come to Work Faith and say, hey, we have a job, they understand the mission of Work Faith. And that is so powerful. And one of the things I loved, and I told people this, hey, if I was locked up for 5 years and I worked in the kitchen, Work Faith will help you put that on your resume. You don't leave no 5 years blank. It's like culinary expert. Work for the state of Texas, you know what I mean? And you put it in there, and it's like, okay, wow, I never thought about that. And so when you have those gaps, even, for example, stay-at-home moms, right. you were basically an entrepreneur, a CEO of a company called Your House. And so how do you formulate that in a way that translate and makes you more employable? And that's a tremendous testimony. So again, if you know somebody, and we'll talk more about this later, but if you know somebody who has been hard to hire, if you know of somebody who means well, but man, they just haven't been able to land that job, iWork Houston is the hiring expo for you. That's August the 25th this year, 2020, August the 25th, Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is virtual, and you can get all of the information online if you go to workfaith.org/iWork-Houston, or just go to workfaith.org. If you just go to the website, it's going to come up and it'll tell you, hey, you can register. Here's this event. You want to make sure you tap into this tremendous resource. Anthony, coming into an organization that has such a tremendous history and legacy, how do you build upon that? What is your approach to building on the foundation and allowing that foundation to help catapult this organization and your personal ministry to the next level? Absolutely.
So let me say that, and you made the comment earlier, you're right. A lot of leaders come in and frankly, their ego is out front. It's they're salivating at the opportunity to be a top-down leader versus a bottom-up servant leader. So one of the first things I told the team when I came in, Doc, is that, one, I choose not to ever sit at the head of a table, because I don't ever want, even subconsciously or subliminally, my own mindset to begin to think that I'm better than anybody around the table with me. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I tried to come in with that leadership style to say, one, we're equals. Two, instead of me coming in leading with ego, what do the people need and what does the organization need, right? And so as a bottom-up leader, my responsibility is to care for my team and pour into my team, and then let the team be equipped and empowered to actually do the work of the organization. And that takes a skill and that takes a discipline. Believe it or not, as simple as that sounds, it's not easy for a lot of leaders to implement, because at the end of the day, their ego gets out front. And they ultimately, if they're not cautious, will actually lead with their ego. That being stated, that was the first component. What is the organization and what do the people of the organization need? My team. How do I edify them, build them up? How do I make sure they know that my responsibility is to assure their success, not my success? All right. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what does the market need? So now that I understand what the organization needs, meaning internally care for home, how do we redeem, restore, et cetera, home? Now, what is the market asking us for? Not what we think it needs, not what our egos say it needs. What does the market actually need? And so we began to look at how we can make adjustments to address issues in the market. I started on March 16th, the day they shut down 3 states in our country, Washington, New York, and Oregon states. And so immediately, right, the thought is, what does the market need? So of course, the instinct of humanity, right, is to do things the way we've always done them. And yet the skill of a successful leader, especially someone sitting in my seat, is to say, fall in love with the problem, not your solution. Okay. And a lot of leaders fall in love with their solution. Well, the problem was that there are millions of people out of jobs. So instead of coming in with our traditional, conventional solution that we had always done, how do we pivot and make the adjustments necessary in order to address the problems of the market? Again, simple concept, but not easy to implement. And that's what we've done in the last, 120 days or so, Doc, is we have begun to make those adjustments. We've made the pivots necessary in order to actually shift and address the concerns and needs and problems of the market. And so as a result, boom, Tuesday is happening because we were willing to have the courage, the bravery, the audacity, the temerity to step up and do that.
I think it's tremendous that you mentioned that willingness to look beyond what you think will work to actually starting with the problem. And I use the phrase thinking without a box, right? Because I tell people all the time, when you think outside of the box, when times get tough, you run back to the box and come back in the box, right? But when you think without a box, now it's like, okay, how do we solve this? How do we address this? How do we speak to this? So let's talk a little bit about the willingness of the business community, the people who are coming to the table to say, yes, we need people. You have industries like call centers, distribution centers. You have grocery chains, healthcare, hospitality, manufacturing, nonprofits, transportation, and so much more. How's the response been to what you all have put out there with I Work Houston?
Oh, it's been exceptional, because a lot of, at least in our space, now I can't speak for the entire market, but in our space, a lot of our partnering organizations, frankly, have not been, they haven't been able to respond as expeditiously as we've been able to respond. I attribute that to creative, innovative thinking, but also more importantly to me having the type of team that could actually execute on the ideas that we have come up with in this process. And so as a result, though, companies are responding very graciously. I mean, we have 1,022 jobs pre-committed for this event, and we're not done yet. There are still companies onboarding. We had over 300 jobs committed just yesterday. And so there are still companies onboarding to say, whoa, we heard about this. We want to be a part of this experience. We have over 700 people pre-registered to actually attend this event. And the platform is amazing. You literally log on and it literally looks like you're outside at a virtual career. There are people moving and everything on the platform. And then when you log in, you get inside the platform, the companies have their own actual virtual booth. I mean, there's a person with a table and their logo and everything. And so It's literally using your imagination. Imagine going to a live career fair and being able to go around to different tables and meet with companies and interact with their leadership. And so we've structured it that way. And both the audience, those who are in need of employment, as well as the companies are responding well. And I'll say this, 80% of the people who have registered are people who are not currently employed. And so that speaks to the demand. And frankly, we know it, right? But what happens for a lot of us is we get overwhelmed by the concept that there's a problem, but we're not acting on providing solutions. And so,
right.
Yeah.
No, I tell you what, 1,000 jobs is absolutely tremendous. And again, I don't want to miss this opportunity to emphasize to our listening audience, the people that work with Work Faith Connection, they know the clientele that you work with, that you're working with people, some of whom are looking for a second chance, some of whom are in need of a fresh start. And one of the things I love about the program is you address not just job readiness. I mean, everybody can dress for success. Everybody can, okay, how you put together a resume, but you deal with some character issues. I mean, you all deal with some stuff that's happening on the inside that affects how I interact with people on the outside. And that's what I loved. I mean, I sat there for several days and I was just blown away. And what was interesting is one of the people who I brought with me who got put out was my son, because he couldn't get there on time, and I'm like, dude, he's like, man, Pop, talk to him, man. I'm like, man, I have nothing to say, brother. Yeah, we already told you, they laid it out. They won. You knew what needed to be done, so, hey, you can come back later on. Right. But it was just, I just love the authenticity. I love the transparency. I loved the tough love, because there's always this misnomer that, as a Christian organization, we're going to coddle you. And that's not preparing you to go out into the world.
Absolutely.
And that's what I love about the history. Kim, as you all plan for this, tell me how the staff has responded, how excited you all have been, because for every organization, the pandemic has provided a challenging time. And, the question is not, will you face it? The question is how you will respond to it.
Absolutely.
Talk about how you all as an organization have taken this challenge and leaned into it and embraced it.
All right. So I'm going to tell you how we started out and where we are now. So we're excited. Now, let me get to the good part. But honestly, when Anthony challenged us and told us what he wanted to do, to be quite honest, to be transparent, I'll say, this guy's got to be crazy. I mean, let's just be real. Somebody coming in and it's like, oh, we got to respond. I mean, we are an employment organization. There are so many people who need jobs. We need to have a hiring event where I want to see 1,000 people hired in a day. I couldn't wait to get off the phone with him to call our employee developer, Natasha. I'm like, get ready for the call of your life. It's about to get crazy. So thank goodness we had one another. But no, really, what that said to me, though, I said, you know what? If he's going to present this kind of challenge, obviously he sees something in this core team that he believes we would be strong enough and gifted enough and dedicated enough to bring it up, to pull it off, because it really was I'll say a God-sized undertaking for a short period of time. But, it's like with every assignment God gives, he's going to always make sure you're going to be stretched. It's going to be just a little bit too big for you to have to grow in order to be able to grow into it. And so, again, our team just expanded. We just had to get more seats on the bus, people in their areas of expertise. And that's something I love about our organization, that you don't just get locked into your role, that's the only thing that you can do ever. I mean, if there are if your giftedness helps you to be able to function in a way that's going to lend itself to moving us forward, and whatever we're trying to do, then you'll have that opportunity. And so we've expanded our team, and everyone is really working together. I mean, it has caught fire. It has caught fire, and the things that we are doing, our efforts are being rewarded by, the companies that are responding. I mean, we've got City of Houston and Harris County and Walmart, Academy, Distribution Center, Aldine ISD, MD Anderson, and I could go on and on about the different types of companies that are grateful for this opportunity to have a place where they can get their positions filled. So it's a win-win. It's a mutually beneficial opportunity.
Anthony, talk about the importance of this event and the clientele that you serve, and you serve people regardless of race, religion, ethnicity. But talk about the importance of this event in light of everything that's going on in our society, both high unemployment numbers, but the awareness, the struggles that people are having, engaging in conversations around race and racial reconciliation and white supremacy and white privilege and white fragility and all of those things that are out there. And now the white lash that we're seeing come back from many of these discussions. Talk about the importance of this event historically at this moment.
Yeah, Doc, and I'm Kim that knows I usually try to keep stuff real simple. I try not to complicate stuff. I say I'm not that smart, right? So I got to keep stuff simple. So here's my simple response, right? So regardless of who your cell phone bill is, who your holding company is, they want their money at the end of the month, right? And so media, propaganda, and all the talk doesn't pay the bills of the people we're supporting every day. So when you get finished with all the talk and all these companies are making commitments and the media and all of this, at the end of the day, are we helping people get practical ways to eat? Because media and propaganda does not put food in their mouths. Media and propaganda does not pay the phone bill they need to make calls. So their utility bill, the lights don't stay on because they live with a hope and a dream and a wish. So we need to give people practical tools and practical opportunities to leverage those tools so that they can begin to either, redeem their path back to life and or really elevate and accelerate their path in life. And so that's what it's about for me. So when I threw out the idea of 1,000 in a day, I was thinking 10,000. So I fell back by 90% because I knew they couldn't handle it. So they tripping on a G and I'm on 10 G's. I'm on 10 G's strong. And I'm like, okay, I'm already thinking about next year. So how do you move from 1,000 to 5,000 in a day? I'm there already, right? Because I'm obsessed because of my story, because of my homeboys who are locked up, who are dead, I'm obsessed with giving people an opportunity where systemic structures in our culture and our society have prevented them from having equal opportunities. And so I'm obsessed with it. I get up every day and 1,000 is not nearly enough for me.
Right.
We got to do more. Right. And so that's to me the significance, the importance of it. I feel it in every fiber of my bones.
Yeah. Kim, I remember several years ago, I'm sure you remember the image. There was a job fair at the United Way. They had received commitments for 500 jobs and 5,000 people were lined around the building 3 hours before the event even started. I remember media, man, they had helicopters circling Anthony and they're interviewing people and everybody in the line, I'm talking about, man, dressed for success, had their resumes ready. They were ready to rock and roll. two things. One, the entire event was just overwhelmed by the numbers, and the people who came for the job fair to provide job opportunities weren't prepared for the people who came, because the people who came had backgrounds, they had records, they had some things in their past that if you weren't careful, you would use that to judge them regarding how they would perform in the future. Absolutely. Which is not what Work Faith is about. One of the things I appreciate about Work Faith is the commitment to build on the past, even the mistakes that have been made. You know, how can you make sure that you learn from those mistakes, build upon those mistakes, and you come out of this better? And I think I was just thinking probably the biggest phrase for me when I think about Work Faith Connection is no excuses. Yeah. Like, it's no excuses. No, we're gonna give you every tool you need, so you can't blame the white man, the black man, the Indian. You can't blame the immigrant. It's like no excuses. You have to take responsibility for what you have done and for what you need to do in order to get where you want to be. Anthony, share with us a little bit about your experience in Atlanta with the 100 Black Men of Atlanta, and how that has prepared you, and how do you see that experience helping you delve into some new areas in the city of Houston in terms of connecting with resources and personalities and things like that will better Work Faith Connection as it moves forward?
Yeah, I mean, let me just say, man, you know, there are 100 plus chapters of the 100 internationally. The global headquarters of the organization is in Atlanta, and it's about 2 blocks from the Atlanta chapter. The Atlanta chapter happens to be, of course, I'm going to argue this because I was, involved in it. But literally by numbers. So not just even my opinion, by numbers of size of budget, size of team, frankly, some of the personalities that have come through. So to put it in perspective, currently, even as it stands today, the very first name on our roster is the legendary Major League Baseball great Hank Aaron by last name. So Hank Aaron is the first name on our roster, and Ambassador Andrew Young is the last name on our roster.
Yeah, that's a pretty good list.
And so, so imagine everything in between is it's amazing. And so to answer your question, can you imagine me just, I literally remember, I got a call. I was at a church going in, to deliver some stuff. And I got a call, said, "Hey, Anthony, I finally got in touch with Ambassador Young. He said, just swing by the house." And so I was literally about 1.5 miles from Ambassador Young's house. And so just to be able to just pull up to the gate and boom and drive in and sit down in the living room of Ambassador for 2 hours and, we chop it up. I mean, that was my experience throughout my entire time. And if I started to say names or names of people, so 2 of the first guys I connected with, Craig Williams, just became the CEO of Brand Jordan for Nike. So he interviewed with Jordan. He spent a week in Michael Jordan's home last Christmas before they made the final decision. Also the CEO of Lowe's, the company that competes with Home Depot. By the way, the market is up for companies like Home Depot because people are doing a lot of home improvements. They're do-it-yourself. So the CEO of Lowe's, is a member of the 100 of Atlanta. And I could just go down the list. So what it showed me was the power, frankly, of the African-American race. I already knew, that we had leverage in our culture, we had leverage in our society. But in Atlanta, I've never seen, this is me speaking personally, I've never seen the level of African-American leadership and across every sector, across every industry. It's amazing what we're doing. And so the energy that empowered me to bring to Houston, right, is to say, okay, how, if that doesn't exist in the city, because of what I've been able to experience in Atlanta, I need to be at the forefront as a pioneer. And I know that leadership is there, but here's what I'd say is unique about Atlanta, Doc, and I've been all over the country. The leaders of Atlanta have figured out how to come together to make a statement about that level of leadership. And so again, I'm not suggesting that's not happening in other cities, but it's like on 10, here in Atlanta. And so I think that's what's unique about the city, that I think when I think about Houston, how I can come in and really help bring some value to the city is, when there's a cause, when there's a problem that we want to address, we're coming together, and I'm not sure people know the history, but there's an old school story of how, essentially when the movement in Atlanta started to occur, was when one of our former mayors, who was an African-American mayor, pulled the white community in and said, if you don't start to give us contracts, a small percentage of contracts in this city, then guess what? We're just going to take the banking of the city of Atlanta, the city bank, the city's budget is going to be placed in black banks, and all of a sudden they got the attention.
You can call the mayor's name. He's one of my heroes. You can call the mayor's name.
Yeah. And frankly, his name is slipping.
Maynard Jackson.
Maynard Jackson.
Yeah.
Yep. And Maynard Jackson was the one who, because I had a mix up in the names there, but Maynard Jackson was the one who made that call. And I saw the documentary and everything, because I was new to Atlanta. I didn't know the history of Atlanta like that.
Tremendous.
So I actually just saw that documentary last year, to be honest. And so I didn't know the history of the city like that, but it was a powerful testimony to, what happened in the city and the camaraderie that came around the city like that. So, and that movement is still taking place to this very day.
Well, and I think, for those who don't know the story of Maynard Jackson created the millionaires and the foundation for the black millionaires that you see in Atlanta across the spectrum. Coleman Young did similar in Detroit. And I think one of the things that you'll find in Houston that you will not find in Atlanta, civil rights was a fight in Atlanta. Civil rights here in Houston, in many instances, was negotiated. And the challenge, and the difference between that is, when in the fight, I developed strength and skills and a level of camaraderie, because I've had to fight with you at my back and you fighting on the other side, and we're fighting together for a common goal. But in Houston, and one of the documentaries that I would encourage you to watch, Anthony, as you come in, is The Strange Demise of Jim Crow.
I will.
In that documentary, you will see that there were some protests, but you can almost count the protests that happened in the city of Houston in terms of those that got any kind of notoriety or fanfare on one hand. I mean, it just didn't happen because the fathers of the city of Houston looked at Atlanta and looked at Birmingham and said, fire hoses, dogs, looting, that's not good for business. And this city has always been driven by business. What's in the best interest of business, of making money? This is a developer's town. And so because of that, you don't have the internal strength and intestinal fortitude in our city like you would have in a city like Atlanta, even though the potential is here. It's here. But because we've literally been pitted against each other in a kind of tribalism. So you got Acres Home kind of fighting and negotiating against Sunnyside, and Sunnyside, they don't think a whole lot of Missouri City, in the north side and the south side, they got beef with each other. It's just all kinds of really good community stuff that has kept us from coming together on the bigger issues. And so I've seen, as a person here from the outside looking in, I've seen members of the black community from different parts of town fighting over the same one slice of pie. Instead of recognizing, especially when we put people in leadership, that no, we control the pie. And so to your point with Maynard Jackson, who said, no, this is what's going to happen. There's room for everybody to sit at the table, and everybody's got to eat, or else it's going to be hard for you to eat. And I think that's a tremendous legacy, man. I'm just thinking, Henry Aaron to Andrew Young and everybody in between. Tell our audience, because we talked about this before, about the 100 Black men and your relationship with John Lewis and the Reverend C.T. Vivian, two historic figures who just passed away in the last several weeks.
Absolutely. So one of my great friends, who's the current chair of the 100 of Atlanta, Kevin Gooch, actually 2 years ago, Gooch actually reignited. We basically have a 100 honors gala. Of course, it got, due to COVID-19 and everything, it got canceled for 2020. But it was reinstituted. So there was years ago, the organization was known for their galas and the celebrity guests and the awards that they would give. And so that shut down for about a decade or so, if I'm not mistaken. But then, there's a younger breed of us, right, who essentially came into the organization. And so Kevin, who's the current board chair, right before he became the board chair, reinstituted the 100 Honors Gala. And we actually had the opportunity and the privilege to actually be able to honor both John Lewis and C.T. Vivian in 2018 at the gala. And then we actually created awards that made them the namesake. So last year, we actually gave the award in honor of them to other people. And so it was such an honor to be able to have, those two on board. Just present and actually able to receive their awards, not having no idea that literally not even 2 years later, that neither of them would be with us.
Yeah, it just reminds me of the charge that we have, man, to honor those who are with us while they're with us.
Yeah.
Because if nothing else, COVID has been a stark reminder of how short life is.
That's
and
right.
how fragile we really are. As we get ready to close today, I want you all just to give our audience, each of you, kind of that 30-second pitch as to why this event is so important. Work Faith Connection, bridging this employment gap with this virtual hiring expo. Why is this so important? Ladies first, Kim.
Sure. Well, I'll leave you with the words of our manager of coaching. Her name is Stephanie Johnson, and she often says to the folks who she will receive as they complete a class, she says, we're here to help you win. And how often do you have an organization like a Work Faith a free, my husband calls it free 99, where it's a free, it will cost you your time, but for this opportunity where folks will come alongside you and help you in every conceivable way to ascertain your next job opportunity and so much more. As you said, it's not even just about a job. It's really, and for some people, it's a whole new life. So let us come alongside you and help you as you make that next big step.
Anthony?
It's hard to follow that. Not going out of the parts. Yeah, I would just say that, frankly, literally just piggybacking what Kim just said, I think I would just like to encourage people not to even see it as an investment of time, as a cost, but an investment. I'm sorry, that's what I meant to say. Like, it's literally an investment in taking your life to the next level. We have a leadership team, and we're going to continue to collaborate with these companies to really, truly help people see that regardless of their story, regardless of their background, regardless of what they've been through, there are people who love and value them for their human being that they are. And we want to invest our time, talent, and treasure in them so that there's an opportunity for them to redeem their past, restore, and really take their life to the next level. So join us on Tuesday for iWork. Hit us on our website at workfaith.org, workfaith.org, and they can find out all the information they need to be with us.
Well, I want to thank both of you for being with us today and sharing this tremendous information. The story of Work Faith Connection is such a powerful story. The lives that have been changed, more than the jobs that have been gotten, the lives that have been changed, absolutely tremendous. I'm so excited to be a partner with you all and looking forward to an even stronger relationship as we move forward. Don't forget, that's this Tuesday, August the 25th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. I Work Houston Hiring Expo. Over 1,000 jobs available, and you can access this information virtually. So it's COVID safe. You don't have to expose yourself, but you can literally find a job if you're furloughed, if you're looking for a job, if you're just tired of being unemployed, or maybe you're looking for a new position and you'd like to find one. You can do it at iWork Houston. Again, make sure you go to that website and find out what it takes to become part of this. And I know you're going to be blessed by it. Thank you all so much for being with us today. And man, I just really, really appreciate you all so much. The late Vernon John said, if you see a good fight, get in it. I always add, if you don't see a good fight, start one. And the fight for your well-being, not just personally, not just spiritually, but how you live your life, is a fight worth getting into. Fighting to put the work in that you need to put in to become the person that God has designed you to be. Because the truth of the matter is, it doesn't happen by accident. I don't care who you see. If you think it's an overnight success, you just found out about them overnight. But they have been putting the work in behind the scenes for years. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing. That's iWork Houston Hiring Expo, August the 25th. That's this Tuesday, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Listen, I got to get out of here. It's time to go. Thank you for being with us on Real World, Real Talk on Houston's member-supported public radio station, The Choice 90.9, KTSU, and KTSUradio.com. You can also catch reruns of this on the Real World, Real Talk podcast network. All right. Until next time, God bless is my prayer. Peace.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Real World, Real Talk. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes every week. Follow us via social media using the @RWRTDZ username on all platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. To submit any comments, questions, sponsor opportunities, or future show suggestions, visit us online at rwrtdz.com or via email at info@rwrtdz.com. Thank you for listening, and we hope you've been inspired to be the change you want to see in the world today. Until next time, be real, keep it real, and stay real.